في العالم.
تم استهداف البيت كامل. البيت فيه فوق 40 نفر صغار وكبار وإلى آخره. فجأة راحت الحي كله 3-5 دور حوالين البيت كله راح. فوق 30 طفل، فوق 20 مرة في البيت. يا الله، مشهد بتقشعر له الأبدان.
With Radio Algeria International, you will not miss a single major political or economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has extended his wishes to the Algerian people and Muslims all around the world on the occasion of the Islamic New Year. A project for the production of cereals, legumes and pasta in Timimoun has been signed between Algeria and Italy. Several Palestinians have been killed and wounded in new airstrikes carried out by the Israeli occupation against several areas of Gaza. Those were the major developments. Now the full news edition. Good afternoon. Algerians, like the rest of the Muslim world, are celebrating today the first day of the month of Muharram of the Hijri year 1446, marking the beginning of the Islamic year. The Ministry of Religious Affairs announced on the occasion that Tuesday, July 16, 2024, will mark Ashura, which corresponds to the 10th of the Muharram, 1446. A press release from the ministry indicated that on this occasion, and to perpetuate the tradition of the Prophet, peace be upon him, which constitutes of collecting and distributing zakat, the Ministry of Religious Affairs put at the disposal of donors the bank accounts of the National Office of Waqf and Zakat, thus ensuring its organized and fair collection and distribution and contributing to social solidarity and cohesion. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has extended his wishes to the Algerian people here and abroad, as well as to the entire Arab Muslim nation, on the occasion of the beginning of the new year of the Hijra, marking the Islamic New Year. On the occasion of the advent of the new year of the Hijra 1446, the anniversary of the departure of our Prophet, peace be upon him, from Mecca to Medina, President Abdelmajid Tebboune praised to Allah Almighty to renew this year event with the stability, security and prosperity that Algeria is enjoying. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has congratulated Mr. Keir Starmer following his appointment as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland following his party's victory in the general election. On the occasion, the President of the Republic expressed his willingness to work together to strengthen relations of friendship and cooperation between the two countries. The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Youssef Sherfa, has affirmed in Algiers that the integrated projects for the production of cereals, legumes and pasta in the southern province of Timimoun will allow the increase of national durum production by 170,000 tons per year and produce significant quantities of legumes and pasta. Asia Bakar has more details in this report.
Speaking at a joint press conference with the Italian Minister of Agriculture, Food Sovereignty and Forestry, Francesco Lollobrigida, on the sidelines of the signing ceremony of a framework agreement between his ministerial department and the Italian company Bonifice Ferrarsi, Mr. Sherfa underlined that this project will contribute to achieving national self-sufficiency in durum wheat, particularly following the significant production achieved this year, allowing to meet 80% of the national demand. Mr. Sherfa highlighted that the project is in line with the commitments and instruction of the President of the Republic to achieve food security in the country.
مشروع استراتيجي يدخل في إطار
It is a strategic project which is part of Algeria's policy to strengthen food security and socio-economic development in the country. This integrated project consists of producing cereals and legumes in an area of 36,000 hectares in the province of Timimoun in the south of Algeria, with a total envelope of 420 million euros. The project is part of the national plan for the development of strategic branches that include cereals and legumes, oil and sugar plants, seeds as well as milk, in line with the commitments and instructions of the President of the Republic and the government plan, as well as the strategy of the Ministry of Agriculture aimed at meeting the demands of largely consumed foodstuffs. The agreement came to reinforce the exceptional partnership relations that link Algeria to Italy.
For his part, Italian Minister of Agriculture, Food Sovereignty and Forestry affirmed that this project brings added value, particularly in terms of contribution to the creation of jobs and wealth, stressing that it will constitute a model of partnership between the two countries, in addition to further strengthening and consolidating relations between his country and Algeria.
This is an exceptional day as we will sign this important agreement with the Italian company Bonifici Ferraresi to strengthen the relations between our nations through this investment, an investment that guarantees food security and which is a step forward in consolidating relations with Algeria.
It's worth noting that the agreement was initiated Saturday morning in Algiers by the Director General of Investment and Agricultural Land at the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Saad Aswas, and the CEO of the Italian company Bonifici Ferraresi, Federico Vecchioni, in the presence of the Ministers of Agriculture and Rural Development, Youssef Sharfa, Finance Minister Laziz Faid, Energy and Mines Minister Mohamed Arkab, Industry and Pharmaceutical Production Minister Ali Aoun, and the Minister of Water Resources, Taha Darbel.
Finance Minister Laziz Faid, for his part, seized the opportunity to hold cooperation and partnership between Algeria and Italy in the agricultural sector.
A remarkable success has been made by the Algerian-Italian Business Council, where different fields of cooperation have been chosen, notably agricultural industries and agricultural machinery. This remarkable bilateral partnership has been boosted by the new project for producing cereals and legumes in partnership between the National Fund of Investment and the Italian company Best Food International, which will be implemented in the province of Timimoun in southern Algeria. Timimoun has the required natural favorable elements, notably fertile land and groundwater.
That was the statement of the Finance Minister on the occasion of the signing ceremony of an agreement between the Algerian Agricultural Ministry and the Italian company Bonifici Ferraresi for the implementation of the project for the production of cereals. For his part, the CEO of the Italian company Bonifici Ferraresi, Federico Vecchioni, stressed that the project is a good opportunity for both Algeria and Italy to strengthen the agricultural sector in both countries and in the Mediterranean basin.
This is a project for agricultural development, not only in Italy but also in Algeria. The partnership between BF and the national institution in Algeria and the national institution in Italy, it's possible the good opportunity, the great opportunity for the agriculture in the Mediterranean Sea and in the different countries in the African continents.
That was the CEO of the Italian company Bonifici Ferraresi, Federico Vecchiano, speaking to Era Radio. The Minister of Mujahideen or War Veterans, Mr. Haider Biga, and the Minister of the Veterans Affairs of the People's Republic of China, Mr. Pei Jinjia, have underlined here in Algiers the depth of the Sino-Algerian relations, highlighting the desire of the two countries to build a mutually beneficial, comprehensive strategic partnership. Mohamed Khatir has more details.
During their meeting held at the ministry's headquarters, Mr. Biga and the Chinese official highlighted the efforts of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, and his Chinese counterpart, Mr. Xi Jinping, in favor of a comprehensive strategic partnership between Algeria and China, recalling that the two countries were linked by strong and solid historical relations. Mr. Biga indicated that the visit of the Chinese Minister of Veterans Affairs had allowed the Chinese delegation to learn about the work of the Mujahideen sector, particularly in terms of caring for Mujahideen and right holders and preserving the national memory, national history and archives. For his part, the Chinese minister hailed the brotherly relations existing between his country and Algeria, stressing that cooperation between the two countries is progressing well towards the establishment of a strategic partnership under the leadership of the presidents of the two countries.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. Several Palestinians have been killed and wounded in new airstrikes carried out by the Israeli occupation army against several areas of Gaza, including the central part of the territory. More details in this report by Mohamed Khatel.
The Palestinian Red Crescent said 6 people, including 2 children, were killed in airstrikes launched on the northern part of Gaza, as well as on the southern town of Khan Yunis. This came as 16 people were killed and scores of others wounded in the relentless Israeli bombardments that hit a school run by UNRWA in the refugee camp of Nusayrat in the central part of the enclave. A spokesman for the UN agency stressed that most of the infrastructure that sheltered displaced people were hit by the bombardments, while recalling that 2 of its workers were killed in a similar attack launched yesterday against the central refugee camp of El Bridge. Palestinian sources affirmed that at least 55 people have been killed over the last 24 hours in the Israeli bombardments. This brought to over 38,150 the number of people killed since the Israeli army launched its large-scale offensive on Gaza exactly 10 months ago. In this connection, efforts are underway to pave the way for the resumption of negotiations aimed at securing a ceasefire in Gaza.
In Lebanon, one member of the Hezbollah movement was killed in a drone attacks launched by the Israeli occupation army on an area near Baalbek in the eastern part of the country. The Israeli occupation army has pursued its attacks on several regions in Lebanon, causing the Hezbollah movement to retaliate. The exchanges of fire between the two parties along the blue line separating the two countries have raised fears about an extension of the conflict. Recently, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said he was deeply concerned by the escalated tensions between the two sides, warning that one miscalculation could trigger catastrophe, which, as he put it, the people of the region and the people of the world cannot afford. Britain's new Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said he is eager to deliver the change promised to the UK, making economic growth his government's number one mission. Labour's Keir Starmer assembled his key ministers before holding a press conference from 10 Downing Street. He shared his intention to abandon the previous Conservative government's highly controversial plan to deport migrants to Rwanda. The British Premier stressed the need to ensure that growth is everywhere across the country so that people everywhere will live better, announcing future difficult decisions. He added that his government is determined to serve the British people's interest. He renewed his country's position in favour of a ceasefire in Gaza and asked for the delivery of humanitarian aid, reiterating his readiness to work with the Palestinian government to boost relations of cooperation between the two countries. In France, the people today went to the polls as part of the second round of the parliamentary elections amid a reinforced security. Today's elections are seen as historic following the victory of the far-right wing, the National Rally, as part in last week's first round of voting. Today's voting was marked by 26.63% turnout, considered the highest since 1981. When it reached 28.3% and brought the Socialist Party to power. The voters will have to choose their candidates among 3 main blocs, including the Ensemble Party, representing the Renaissance Party, led by President Macron, and other right-wing parties, the far-right National Rally, and the New Popular Front, a pact bringing together socialist right-wing and green parties. Delegations from several Sudanese political parties and civil society groups met in the Egyptian capital Cairo to seek a political solution to the crisis in Sudan. Egypt's Foreign Affairs Minister Mr. Badr Abdelati stressed that any real political solution to the Sudanese crisis must be based on a purely Sudanese vision emanating from the Sudanese themselves. Mr. Abdelati said that all parties in Sudan should be included in the peace process, in accordance with the principles of respect for Sudan's sovereignty, unity and territorial integrity and the rules of non-interference in its internal affairs. He added that the conference was in line with Egypt's efforts to put an end to the war in Sudan in cooperation with regional and international partners, including Sudan's neighbouring countries, the United Nations, the African Union and the Arab League. That's it for today's news bulletin. I invite you now to listen to a special program by my colleague Majid Mila. Stay tuned on Radio Algeria International.
Hello and welcome on Radio Algeria International. In today's program, we evoke the ongoing General Census of Agriculture. The government has allotted 900 million Algerian dinars for this long-awaited event. Let's see what are the government's expectations and how it works. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, grants a great importance to the agricultural sector for its major role in the revival of the national economy and its contribution to the country's food security. The agricultural sector has undergone major changes and transformations in recent years, whether in terms of expansion of agricultural areas, the introduction of new products, or the use of water and irrigation. However, in order to develop this sector, we need to identify its real capacity so that we can determine the policies we need to follow to achieve this objective. To this end, under President Tebboune's instructions, the government has allocated 900 million Algerian dinars to the General Census of Agriculture, which will provide credible and reliable indicators to help decision-making and guide government policy with a view to accelerating the pace of development and modernization in the sector, as well as improving production. According to experts, the General Census of Agriculture is an essential component of agricultural planning and policies. It provides vital information on agricultural production, land use and livestock, and it's essential of ensuring food security and promoting rural development. The General Census of Agriculture reveals real data and the true reality of the sector thanks to accurate figures obtained through digitization. It has captured the attention of the authorities, who grant great importance to it, given the imbalances in statistics to which the President of the Republic has referred to on several occasions. Mr. Tebboune had assured that a general and precise census would give a clear and faithful picture of the current situation, its economic indicators and its production capacities. It will enable investment opportunities to be accurately identified and future production targets to be set, in addition to providing a good framework of import and export operations. In particular, the rationalization of input support operations and the correct estimation of financial credit requirements. Its resultant data will also make it possible to plan food security priorities. It should be noted that the increase of prices observed for certain products in the past are due to the absence of real figures on production capacity and resources. This lack of data has led to an imbalance between supply and demand, which has led to higher prices, as experts explain, citing as an example the red meat crisis, which its prices have risen unusually in recent months due to the previously erroneous figures on livestock numbers. Statistics and digitization are the only way to determine reality and plan for the future, and the imbalance that occurs in the production of certain agricultural products, whether shortage or surplus, can be controlled through the census operation and digitization. It would therefore be possible to avoid market disturbances, ensure a well-balanced supply, which in return ensures stability and stable prices, and direct the surplus towards export instead of damaging these products and causing huge losses to the farmer. The agricultural sector has already undergone several general agricultural censuses, notably in 1973 and 2001. However, it's better to update the data, especially as technological development and modern tools are helping to improve the efficiency of this census. General agricultural census campaigns have always preceded transformations in Algeria's agricultural economy, particularly as a proactive step towards building a national strategy along the lines of the agrarian revolution of the 1970s, the Agricultural Renewal Program, and agricultural and rural development. The general census of agriculture must be followed by the development of a national strategy that defines medium and long-term objectives for the 2030-2035 horizons. The modern vision of agriculture must be built on the basis of food security, economic growth, export diversification, and sustainability in line with environmental standards. It's worth recalling that the current general census of agriculture will last until the 17th of July.
Welcome. Today is, according to the Muslim calendar, which is a lunar one, the 1st of Muharram, which marks the Islamic New Year. So let's know more about this celebration. Muharram marks the Islamic New Year for Muslim communities around the world, including Algeria. It is the first month of the lunar Islamic calendar and is one of the 4 most sacred months of the calendar where, among other things, fighting is prohibited. The Muslim New Year has no religious significance, but still many Muslims use the day to remember the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the Hijrah or Exodus from Mecca to the city of Yathrib, later known as Medina, in between June the 21st and July the 2nd in 622 AD. As in June 620, warned of a plot to assassinate him, Muhammad, peace be upon him, secretly escaped out of Mecca with one of his closest disciples, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. The Prophet and his followers immigrated to the city of Yathrib, 320 kilometers north of Mecca, in several steps. Yathrib was soon renamed Madinat al-Nabi, literally the city of the Prophet, but al-Nabi was soon dropped, so its name in English is Medina, meaning the city. The people who accompanied Muhammad on the Hijrah were called the Muhajirun, which means those that make the Hijrah, or the immigrants, while those in Medina who became Muslims were called the Ansar, or helpers. A large group of Muslims from Medina came to Mecca and took an oath to Muhammad, peace be upon him, to defend him as their own kin. Prophet Muhammad immediately encouraged his Meccan followers to take their way to Medina in small groups. And when Mecca dignitaries learned that the Muslims had begun an exodus, they plotted to have the Prophet killed. Under this threat, Muhammad, peace be upon him, slipped away unnoticed with disciple Abu Bakr towards Medina using unfrequented paths. He completed the celebrated Hijrah on September 24, 622 AD. The history of Islam had begun. The Muslim year during which the Hijrah or Hijrah occurred was designed the first year of the Islamic calendar by Umar ibn al-Khattab in 638 AD or 17 AH, and the abbreviation is used with that year and subsequently the following years. The Muslim year during which the Hijrah occurred was designed the first year of the Islamic calendar. Someone suggested that the era should begin from the date of birth of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Some suggested that it should begin from the death of Prophet Muhammad. Muhammad's cousin Ali suggested that it should begin from the date the Muslims migrated from Mecca to Medina. And after discussions, Ali's suggestion was agreed to. Next, the question arose from which month should the new era start. Someone suggested that the calendar should start with the month of Rajab, as in the pre-Islamic period this month was held sacred. Someone proposed that the first month should be Ramadan, as this is a sacred month for the Muslims. Another proposal was that the first month should be Dhul Hijjah, as this is the month of the pilgrimage. Uthman ibn al-Hathan suggested for his part that as in Arabia the year started with Muharram, the new era should also start with it. This suggestion was widely accepted. The date was accordingly pushed back by 2 months and 8 days, and the new Hijri calendar began with the first day of Muharram in the year of migration rather than from the actual date of migration. Caliph Umar accordingly issued instructions to all concerned regarding the enforcement of the Hijri calendar. Scholar Hakim Muhammad Saeed wrote in his book Nihayat al-Idrak that the Hijra was used, and for all future times the era was counted from it. Agreement on this matter was reached in the year 17 of the Hijra, the 4th year of the Caliphate of Umar. Until then, each year after the Hijra was called after its main event, and this was used for dating purposes. The first year of the Prophet's residence in Medina was thus called the permission to travel. The second year was called the year of the command to fight. The third one, the year of the test, and so on. Afterwards, the custom of naming the year after the main event was abandoned.
You're not aware that we're aware of your despair. Don't show your tears to your oppressor. Don't show your tears. Try not to cry.
To mark this event, Muslims attend various religious activities, spiritual singings, religious meetings throughout the country. Here, traditional dishes are prepared to mark the event and to gather family and friends to recall the Prophet's words and deeds, not to mention the divine message of peace and wisdom the Prophet delivered to all humankind. In the zawiyas, or sense shrines or religious schools here in Algeria, across the country, Quran reciting are held and religious songs are performed by the worshippers in tribute to the divine message that enlightens humankind. The Muslims also prepare for the upcoming Ashura, which is celebrated on the 10th of Muharram and which also corresponds to the third pillar of Islam, namely the zakat, and which means a contribution paid once a year on savings of 2.5%. This giving is aimed at cleaning one's money and possessions from excessive desire for them or greed. The idea is that by giving this money, you learn not to place too much importance on material wealth, cash or possessions. Zakat is a compulsory payment and is neither charity nor a tax. It is expected from every Muslim individual. It is paid on the net balance after a Muslim has spent on basic necessities, family expenses, due credits, donations and taxes. Zakat provides us with the opportunity of sharing our excess wealth with those less fortunate than ourselves. It reminds us that we and our wealth belong to Allah, the real owner, as we are merely the trustees of His wealth. Paying the zakat is an obligatory part of ibadah or worship. That's all for now. Bye.